If the Supreme Court were to overturn Roe, the Guttmacher Institute says at least 26 states are likely to ban or severely restrict abortion access. That would have an effect on an estimated 36 million people of reproductive age. With that in mind, some Democratic state leaders are working to safeguard the right. This is a map of all of the states that have codified abortion rights. A handful of them have also proposed or enacted laws that would protect abortion access for everybody, making them abortion safe havens. But as Politico highlights, that could be pretty costly for abortion facilities there. And some Democratic-led states have Republican-controlled state legislatures that make passing those protections unfeasible. Joining me now to discuss is Michigan's Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. And Secretary, Michigan is led by Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a Democrat who supports choice and abortion rights, but your state has a Republican-controlled state legislature and a state law criminalizing abortions going back to 1930 that could go into effect if the Supreme Court ruling overturns Roe. I mean, fill us in on what's going on in the state of Michigan and how you're working to protect this right for the people who can get pregnant in your state.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having this important discussion, Zerlina. It's always a pleasure to chat with you about these critical issues in this moment because our fundamental rights and freedoms are on the ballot this year. And Michigan is a state run by all women at the executive level. And because of that, we're uniquely positioned to be a voice for women at this time. And so there's really three things that are happening in our state to address this draconian 1931 law on the books still. One is the governor has asked the Michigan State Supreme Court to review its constitutionality because it's possible it's not constitutional under the state constitution. But secondly, voters. I think it's important to remember voters really are in charge at the end of the day of making sure our rights are protected. And in a state like ours, where 70% of voters believe in the right to privacy and the right to choice, we can expect there will likely be a petition on the ballot this fall to amend our state constitution to explicitly protect that right. And there are every event I've been to over the last few weeks, I've seen people there collecting signatures and talking about this initiative and this potential constitutional amendment for our state constitution.
Voters are in charge. Imagine that in a democracy. Governor Gretchen Whitmer filed a lawsuit protecting a woman's right to expand abortion. She explained why she did that last week on MSNBC. Let's take a look.
So Michigan would revert overnight to a 1931 law that would make us have one of the most extreme anti-abortion laws on the books. That means it would be a felony to receive or to perform an abortion. It means there's no exception for rape or incest. And so as governor of Michigan, I have the constitutional right to bring a lawsuit to protect constitutional rights of the people of the state. I also have the ability to ask our state Supreme Court to take the issue up directly.
So she is highlighting what you just mentioned about the process of going to the state Supreme Court to consider the constitutionality of this law under the state constitution. But you said voters are in charge. Are they aware, though, that this is a law that is on the books in your state and that this is even happening right now, as I think we're all processing still the Roe draft opinion?
Well, that's one of the things we're doing as leaders in Michigan, making sure citizens are aware of the implications in our state. And as the fight over our fundamental freedoms and rights, be it the right to vote or the right to choice, has shifted to the states, voters are paying more attention to the state constitution, the actions of their state officials, not just federal officials, to protect their fundamental rights and freedoms. So we're seeing an increase in focus, an increase in energy. It remains to be seen, to what extent that will continue over the next 6 months as the election unfolds in November. But at the same time, I've been really encouraged to see the number of people who don't want their rights taken away and believe in women, and particularly the women in charge of Michigan, to fight for their rights, which indeed what we, led by our governor, are doing.
You mentioned that Michigan is a state that has an all-female led on the executive level, but also you all support choice. How does that change the way a state like Michigan and the leadership responds to a moment like this? It feels like you may have a little bit more passion than folks that are not directly impacted by something like this.
Yeah, I think to see real change, you need leadership and you need voters to be engaged. And that leadership can engage voters, can educate voters, and make sure they're fully informed about what's at stake. And indeed, the stakes are incredibly high in this moment. And so we're proud to use the authority and bully pulpits that we have of our offices to make sure citizens know what they need to do to protect their rights in a moment like this. And that's what our leadership has been providing. But again, it's really, in a state as we are in a country where 70%, over 2/3 of citizens support these rights, it's really going to be up to the citizens, but also, propelled by citizen support that we're all going to be fighting for these freedoms and for these rights.
And everybody's going to be focused on a number of states where this is a hot button issue. And I want to ask you about an op-ed written by friend of the show, Professor Barbara McQuaid. She called upcoming Secretary of State races the most pivotal elections of 2022 and highlighted that 17 of the 27 states holding elections have at least one candidate that denies Joe Biden won the 2020 election. I mean, you're on the front lines of this fight to stand in the void and protect the integrity of our elections. Can you lay out why these races are so important in this particular moment?
Yeah, because at a time like this, where our fundamental rights are under attack and being rolled back in a way that doesn't reflect the will of the people, now more than ever, we need a democracy and a election system that ensures every voice is heard and every vote is counted. And as someone who saw our state really successfully through overseeing our highest turnout election ever in 2020 in the midst of a global pandemic, I'm ready to continue to protecting those rights and those avenues for citizens to hold their elected officials accountable in this fall and beyond. And that's why these races for Secretary of State, the chief election officers in many states, are so critical, not just because we need champions of democracy in them in moments like this, but because the people, including my opponent, trying to replace us, have been, in many cases, handpicked by the former president, President Trump, with an eye towards potentially not certifying election results that they don't agree with, or making it more confusing for voters to vote and participate in our elections, making it harder for us to run elections. So it's really a clear choice that voters will have this year, not just in Michigan, but in Georgia, in Arizona, in Nevada, and many other states, between whether we will have a healthy democracy in the years to come or whether it will wither on the vine under leadership that is unfit to serve in these critical positions.
Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, thank you so much for being here today. Please stay safe. Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.